In the world of healthcare, data and analytics serve more than just numbers and metrics. We utilize these metrics to tell a bigger story as to how we can provide better care back to our members. Today, I'll be speaking with Elisa Cooper, who's an experienced analyst at Blue Shield, who spends much of her time translating the business requirements for her team, as well as providing training where needed. We'll touch on a day in the life of an analyst, what she does to serve her team and her community at large, and what gave her the inspiration to get into this line of work. Hey, Elisa, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you. I appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to talk with us today and getting to know a little bit more about you and what you do to give back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start off, give your official job title and describe a little bit about what you do for work.
All right. So I'm a systems support business analyst. I work with the Appeals and Grievances Department with the Medicare and Medi-Cal lines of businesses. And basically what I do is I help with troubleshooting with any issues that a user may have with the system. Additionally, we do special configurations in the system. That way the users can better help our members with their appeals and grievances. For instance, if they have an authorization that gets denied for a medication, we can make sure that the system is able to process those accurately.
Okay, so is there a lot of technical work in this, or is this more like front facing with clients? Is this dealing with a lot of business personnel? Like, what does the typical work look like for you?
For me, it's more technical. We do a lot more back-end work for the users to be able to see that on their end, kind of like UI, user interface design and pop-ups for processes and process updates.
Was this something that you initially wanted to get into, or did you kind of find your way into this path?
It's a little bit of both. So I am currently going to University of Arizona Global Campus with the Blue Shield of California tuition reimbursement program. And I'm currently going for my Bachelor of Science for IT for software development. So this line of work kind of falls along with my goals for becoming a software developer. It's kind of very similar to what I'm planning to go for my career. So technically, yes, it is something that I have been looking to do that I really, really enjoy doing.
So I would say it's not so much all technical for you, but becoming a software developer is very technical in nature. But from the little I understand of you, you also deal well with people, right? You've had other positions here within the organization that you've been able to leverage. Could you expound on those a little bit more?
Yeah, so I do have to deal a lot with the business part of my job. So I do deal with like product owners, business owners, and just gathering requirements for what they want to see on their systems and how they want it to behave. And that's basically a lot of what I do. A lot of like my day-to-day work is meeting with the business and the product owners to make sure that things are flowing accurately and making sure that we're getting things done with it that they're expecting it to get done.
Makes sense. So you have a little bit of both, right? Like the soft skills in order to deal with the different business personnel, but the technical skills to understand like the back end schematics that are needed to drive the end user experience to a more optimal outcome. Is that fair to say?
Exactly.
So when you become a software developer, right, there's a lot of technical components of it, but was there a particular vision you had with how to utilize your software development skills once that comes into fruition there?
I'm not too sure. I'm still in the process of trying to figure out what exactly I want to do with my software development degree. But I would say one of the things that I am very interested in is working for the IVR, which is the automated phone system, and getting that to work properly for the members whenever they're calling in to, find out information about their plan or what have you. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards right now.
So basically taking like existing processes and maybe improving upon them, making them a little bit more user-friendly down the line?
Exactly.
Okay. Was that an initial goal or passion that you had from early childhood, or was there other passions that you had growing up?
I would say it's been a passion of mine since childhood. I've always been really interested in like technical aspects, especially since how quickly technology has advanced over time. As you've seen, there's just so many new things that are coming down the line. I just always enjoyed working with them and tinkering with little products here and there. So it's been a pretty big passion of mine for quite a while.
Well, you come highly recommended, right? A lot of folks that I know within the organization who know of you have spoken highly of you. And of course, I've gotten a chance to meet you personally, and I echo those same sentiments. You were able to work very well with the teams that you've been given, and a lot of times the teams would speak highly of the team that you were running. So bringing that ability to work with others, how would you implement that in software development going forward?
I would basically just carry over my soft and hard skills. I think one of my soft skills is just being able to communicate with people very well. I'm able to adapt to different personalities and kind of be able to communicate with somebody who has maybe more of like a stubborn-headed personality, and just try to get them to understand where I'm coming from and try to, work with their ideas, but also having some kind of hard skills as well, like being able to tell them, no, we can't do that, but we can do this instead. So I think bringing that over to my software developing future career, I think that would be probably one of the best parts of it.
So for folks trying to get into a similar line of work as yourself, you mentioned the soft and the hard skills. Are there specific things that come to mind when you say, okay, if this is someone trying to get into my field, here's what I think they need to be proficient in? What would you say? I
would say having a lot of patience with yourself is something that I think is a skill that somebody would need to bring over. Just because this line of work, there's not very many training documentation out there. So a lot of it is very hands-on learning, which is another skill that I think would be very helpful, is being able to learn with minimal documentation and just learning from your mistakes, and not being hard on yourself about that. And just always striving to learn more, learning to break the system and fix the system, are some great skills to have.
I like that, how you first mentioned that you kind of have to have patience with yourself. A lot of times when folks get into a new position, they want things to kind of be described, laid out, the template, the guideline, all the formulas to be created. But there are positions where it would require you to kind of come up with some of those best practices or methodologies going forward. Is that fair to say? As an analyst, you have to have that keen eye to maybe processes and seeing where they can be improved upon, and then creating the necessary documentation to make those suggestions to management. Would that be okay? Because I've dabbled a little bit in the analyst work myself, and I do understand where you're coming from when you say that there may not be a template already there prepared for you. You have to learn on the fly. You have to be willing to continuously learn, but also to have patience, like you mentioned, that things aren't going to be laid out for you all there at day one. You've got to find your way a little bit. The best way to find your way is to kind of get thrown to the fire and learn on the fly, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's not going to be an easy road or journey either. You're going to be frustrated because you don't know how to do it and you just want to know how to do it, but it takes time.
For sure. I know in the IT work, a lot of us, we like to be the one that has the answers, right? Like I know a lot of times, especially in technology, folks look to those who have the most technical aptitude as like, hey, they're the one-stop shop to get all their answers. And it's like, sometimes it's tough. There's a pressure on you as an analyst to have to produce outcomes, to have to understand both the development and the business side of things, and then to being able to translate bi-directionally, right? You have to understand the jargon of a developer is not the same as the jargon of a business personnel. Do you experience that in your line of work where you're having to kind of listen to both sides and then translate that so that you can make sure that we're all speaking the same language at the end of the day?
Exactly. Yep. I have come to be the person that a lot of people come to for questions or whenever they need help with something, just because, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at what I do. And so it's come with that, a lot of people message me, asking me questions, and I have to, most of it's from the business side, where they're asking me a question on how this is working or why isn't this working. And I have to kind of explain it to them from their perspective so they don't get so confused when I'm speaking my technical jargon, and then also translate it to my team as well.
Now, the appeals and grievances, that in of itself could be, somewhat challenging, I would say, right? Appeals and grievances is dealing with appeals and grievances. You're appealing a certain jurisdiction or decision that's been made, or you may have a grievance with the services rendered. So how do you navigate that line of work where it may not be as much as favorable as maybe another position where you get higher praise, right? You might be dealing with members who have complaints. How do you manage that?
All right. So our line of work, we're not member facing. So that doesn't really come with those kinds of, difficulties. I guess I'm not really sure what the word would be for that, but it does get a little bit difficult when we're trying to translate a letter for a member. So the difficulties,
so it sounds like it's not front facing, but there's more back end administrative things that happen behind the scenes that would enable, whether it's letter generations or, usability within the system that would meet a member's needs more effectively. So you may not hear one-to-one from that member themselves, but through the pipeline of communication, it would get back to you and your team potentially as to what some of the grievances are. You can take those analytics and see, okay, what processes can we use to improve those so that we get less and less appeals and less grievances? Is that the objective?
Not necessarily. A lot of it is mostly just being able to, for the users to be able to process their appeals within their compliance and mandated timeframes. There have been some defects within the system where their turnaround times are just not calculating properly. So they end up going out of compliance. So we have to take that back and update those turnaround times to make sure that we stay within our mandated time frame, to make sure that we maintain our Medicare stars and ratings. So that's what we technically have to deal with.
So would you say that your client may even be more specifically coworkers within the organization who utilize the systems that your team works on developing?
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So rather than dealing with the member themselves directly, you're organizing within your teams ways to improve upon the systems so that the workers of those systems can deliver better care back to the members.
Exactly. And we also try to find different ways to minimize the amount of clicks they have to get to a certain area, or how much manual information they have to input into their letters.
I see. So you deal with like improving the efficiency and optimization of the system itself, as well as maybe making it more usable or user-friendly so that it's easier for the workers to do their job faster. Maybe there's some automation that's involved in that process as well?
Exactly.
So are there any formal, as an analyst, would you recommend any particular formal education or degrees needed for this type of work?
Not necessarily. A degree can be helpful if you go into business analysis or just business administration. That could be a pretty big advantage for you, but just like having some experience is probably the best for that.
Okay. And what brings you ultimately like the best joy of your work? What gives you the most joy?
I absolutely love my job. I will say that. The thing that brings me the most joy is just seeing all the work that I have put into improving the system and seeing it come to life during our monthly releases and getting that feedback from the business saying this is working perfect and there's no notes, like nothing wrong with it. We love everything about it. And just seeing my work come to life basically is one of the things that brings me the most joy.
I love it. Just being able to make sure that the folks who utilize the systems that you work with and improving feel better about utilizing it as a result of the work that you do. That's what brings you the most joy.
Yep.
So walk me through a typical day in the life of Elisa as an analyst, from the time you get into the office or whether you work remote and you're logging in. What's a typical day look like for you?
So a typical day, I log in somewhere between 8:30 and 9. I'm just managing my emails, getting ready for my 9 o'clock meeting with the vendor. And I start my day with the meeting with the vendor and going over our items and if we have any defects or enhancements that we need to discuss, production support incidents. And then we have our daily stand-ups with our Agile team, working with our Scrum Master and product owners. And just going over if we have any blockers for the day, what we worked on yesterday, and what we're going to be working on for today. And then depending on what kind of work we have for that iteration, I'll work on a configuration to update the UI. Right now, we're working on a refresh, which is just updating our letters to make sure that they're up to date for 2025 and meeting those compliance. And that's pretty much it.
Well, I know you say it's pretty much it, but we understand that involves a lot of different things that are happening, sometimes even simultaneously. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sometimes the meetings go throughout the day. We'll have multiple meetings, so we have to kind of fit in our configuration work along with those meetings and discussions, and can't really multitask between those. So
yeah. How do you, speaking of multitasking, I mean, yes, you have the work, but you also have, a personal life, a family, things of that nature. How do you balance that with such, potentially high demanding work from time to time? How do you still maintain, being Elisa at the end of the day?
I leave work at work. Once I am off at 5 o'clock, I don't think about work. I like to take a little break here and there. I take breaks throughout the day as much as I can. But after work, I just take some time to breathe, get some exercise in, and have dinner with my husband. And then I'll work on my school homework, and then for about an hour. And then I'll either read a book or I'll get on my video games to relax throughout the rest of the day.
Nice. So you're a gamer. Okay. You got any games right now that you're on?
I'm currently not playing anything right now, but I am reading some books.
Okay.
I've gotten into reading.
All right. Would you recommend any readings for the audience?
I'm reading, I think it's called Mistborn. I can't remember the title, but it's a fantasy book written by someone. I can't remember the author. Brandon Sanderson, or okay. Brandon Sanderson. It's a really good book.
So what I'm hearing is that, I'm talking with an analyst, somebody who has a very, it could be demanding, it could be multitasking, a lot of different concurrent activities that go on throughout the day. But what we're hearing is that somebody who also enjoys the downtime and values the off time where she has to develop herself as an individual, right? Reading books, spending time with her family. These things keep a well-rounded employee happy and excited to be at work and keeping them motivated to continue to do what they do. Would you feel like that's important for folks? Because I know, especially in technology, a lot of times we can inundate ourselves with a lot of work and we take that offline as well. And sometimes you can burn out from that. Have you ever experienced burnouts in situations, and that's why you understand how to have this balance now?
Not necessarily with this position that I'm currently in, but I have experienced work burnout. In one of my old positions, I just was always stressing about my workload and just worried about what the next day is going to look like. So I have learned that maintaining that work-life balance is extremely important, and just not taking any of that home. Just so that at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do your job properly, right? So that is extremely important for me.
Well, there you go. I mean, for folks who are interested in getting into that line of work, she said it straight up, is that you have to be able to balance that work life and, keep things into perspective, keep things compartmentalized to a degree so that you can be present, not just at work, but also when you're off work as well. Be present with those who matter most to you at the end of the day. I appreciate you saying that, because that's key for a lot of professionals now. There's this hustle and bustle mentality, which, I'm not here to tell anybody not to work hard, but we understand that we are all humans at the end of the day. And there's only 24 hours in a day, and so we have a finite clock, and how we want to use that as optimally as possible without, losing ourselves at the end of the day, I think is really important. Is there
Exactly.
any final words you have for folks here today?
No, just keep on keeping on, and if you have a dream, go for it.
Love it. I love it. How can folks reach you if they want to connect with you professionally, socially? Any plugs for us?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn under Elisa Cooper.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Elisa. I appreciate you taking the time and sitting down with us. This is Elisa Cooper, Business Analyst here at Blue Shield.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.